Hey, everybody. Dr. Ben Edwards here. Welcome to another episode of You're the Cure. We're going to shift gears a little bit. Last week was kind of deep. Abraham John, what happened to God? If y'all didn't hear that one, we're going to have to take a month or two to let that process, I think, before we bring Abraham back on for part two. But a topic I love, regenerative agriculture. And guys, on the website, veritosswellnessmember.com, under resources, under podcasts, there's a subject drop-down menu, and you can go to ag on there, and you can go back we've had a number of amazing guests over the years talking about regenerative ag and the way to steward this ground, steward this soil, and try to get the most out of it. We're supposed to be good stewards of creation. So today, I've asked Mollie and Ryland Engelhardt to come on the program to share their story, their journey, their amazing journey out of California to Bandera, Texas, Sovereignty Ranch. And there's a conference. We'll talk about it later here in a minute. Big conference down there at the end of September. So we'll get all the details of that. But real quick, two announcements I was supposed to do before we get going. September 4th, Midland, Texas. Simply Midland's hosting me, going to do a Q&A with Heather Claybrook there. It's at the Midland Country Club starting at 5:30. So y'all can check that out, I'm sure, on Simply Midland's social media and on our social media, September 4th, 5:30. And then November 7th, 8th, and 9th in Austin, Texas. It's the annual conference for Children's Health Defense Fund. Big conference. I'm honored to be asked to come speak at that alongside some giants, Andy Wakefield, Suzanne Humphreys, Peter McCullough, Pierre Corey, and others. Going to be an amazing event there in Austin, November 7th, 8th, and 9th. Okay, that's the two announcements. Ryland and Mollie, welcome to the program. Thank y'all for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here and to have you coming to the conference.
Well, I'm honored. Thank y'all for the invitation. I tell people once I reach the goal of shutting down my clinic because people are well, I'm going to go be a farmer. I try to do that on the side a little bit, but it hadn't worked out too good. So I know y'all could teach me a lot, but I'm going to let y'all introduce yourself. I'm just reading from Ryland's signature line on his email. Very impressive. Producer of Kiss the Ground documentary. Guys, if y'all haven't seen that amazing documentary, Kiss the Ground, Common Ground, and May I Be Frank, and a lot of other things. So Ryland, Mollie, again, I'd love for y'all to just introduce yourself, kind of tell your story, and do your own bio. Let's hear about your journey of how you got from where you were to where you are, and it specifically ended up in Bandera, Texas, on a regenerative ranch.
You go first.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, honor to be here. Honor to meet you in person. I guess over Zoom. Yeah, I just want to start by saying there's a lot of mediocre information out there, and then there's stories and communications that really speak to the heart and peel back something to a deeper degree. And when I listened to your talk from No Till on the Plains, that my buddy cotton farmer up in Lubbock, Mike Thompson, played for me, and it was a profound kind of dart to the heart of truth and messaging that was so deep. And it was like, all right, gotta have this guy, this body of knowledge in my ecosystem. How do I share this? And so I just want to say thanks for that. Thanks for following the thread of your path that had you be who you are, that's communicating the way that you are and what you're communicating. It's beautiful and profound and impactful. And I'll say that we grew up on a farm. Me and Mollie, she's my older sister. She's 2 years older than me. Our parents grew up on a homestead, old dairy farm in upstate New York, Ithaca, New York. And we had a homestead where my father and his brother married twin sisters. And so we had brothers marrying twin sisters, living in one household with an apple orchard, some cows, some vegetable gardens, a pond, and one bank account between two couples. Wow. yeah, I think our journey really, it's like, we are a continuum. We're not a seed coming from this now moment. We come from a lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And, we come from an amazing lineage of parents who were great believers in love and great believers in God, and that we are cells in the body of God. And how do we be the best cell in the body of God?
Yeah. Amen.
And,
that's awesome.
And so, that was, from at a deep level, we grew up in upstate New York. Our parents were spiritual seekers, but also entrepreneurs, builders, and we got to see them build things that were guided by spirit, but were in the world and actually creating a meaningful difference. And I think, where me and Mollie are today and why we do what we do has to be attributed to, getting to see that beautiful example of living and being and creating from the connection of the heart, connection to God, and sourcing inspiration from there to create these things in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Amazing. And the fruit of that is very evident, but I'll let you continue.
Well, I'll continue. So we were in the restaurant industry, very successful in the restaurant industry in California, and we were focused on vegan restaurants. My brother and my father owned a chain of vegan restaurants called Cafe Gratitude. I owned a chain of vegan restaurants called Sage Vegan Bistro. And I'd say around 2013, my brother called me like so inspired about this talk he'd heard from Graham Sate. And I'd say the truth of my life at that time is that I was running this restaurant. I'm driving a hybrid. I got a little vegetable garden, a few chickens in my homeowners association community. They're fining me every day for my uncompliant backyard or whatever. And I'm kind of apathetic. Like, I'm doing everything I think I should be doing. I have this vegan restaurant and I'm driving the hybrid and I'm bringing bags to the grocery store. And I think we're just all going to burn in a fiery hell. And it's kind of more virtue signaling or a prayer than actual like belief that anything I'm doing is making any difference. And the way Graham Sate breaks down in his TED talk that Ryland sent me, carbon and carbon cycling, which I think we all understand that plants take carbon from the atmosphere, turn them into carbohydrates, feed them to microbiology in the soil. Like, I think we all understand that loop on some like level, but to understand the perfection of that loop and that utilizing that loop and stepping into our role moved me. And I thought, I need to get a farm. I have all this food waste in my restaurants that I think are so good for the environment because they're vegan, and there's like mass amounts of food waste. And so I go on a journey to get a farm in California, and we end up buying this farm. It took many years because my husband, when I married him, he was one of my employees and he was undocumented, and it took a long time for him to get papers. And then we couldn't buy a farm because of his status. And so we finally found an owner that would do owner finance, and we started bringing all the food from the restaurant, and it was just like amazing. Like, but that broke my brain. Farming broke every kind of liberal city construct that, and even though I grew up on a farm, I got indoctrinated. I went to university. I lived in LA. I made films, went to Sundance. Like, I got indoctrinated into all of these ideas, and veganism being the first to get broken is I get on land and I just realized there is no vegan food. We're killing thousands of ground squirrels in order to keep our young avocado trees alive. We're buying blood meal and bone meal out of the consolidated feedlot industry to fertilize our organic fertilizer is literally non-organic animals ground up. And so I'm just seeing and realizing, and then I'm breastfeeding my second child. So I'm breastfeeding my baby. I go to the refrigerator to get milk for my toddler, and I go to grab this Costco milk, oat milk, organic in a Tetra Pak. And I'm looking at this half gallon of my cow's milk that my uncle's been milking off of Una, because the calf is not drinking all the milk and is drinking unevenly on my cow. And I'm vegan, and I've been indoctrinated to believe that milk is filled with blood and pus and causes cancer and all this stuff. And I'm looking at this glass ball jar with Una's milk and the Tetra Pak with seed oils and sugar and everything from Costco. And I'm holding my infant on my boob, and I'm thinking, how could Una's milk not be God's perfection? If my milk is God's perfect perfection, we're living in the same environment. Una's living in a dirtier version than I am of this environment. So she must have all the antibodies that my 2-year-old needs in this environment. And I just decide to give him the cow's milk, and like my vegan mind is like having some, like, I hope nobody notices. Like, I don't know, like I gotta hide this from my customers. And then he doesn't even want to drink it because it's not sweet enough. I had to like wean him on to milk by putting a little maple syrup in it, because all those fake milks have so much sugar in them. And anyways, and so all these things just led to me realizing that death is not a failure or something that is like needs to be avoided at all cost. It is a function of life. It is the other side of the coin, and that all of us that are alive are feasting on death in one way or another, whether we want to admit it or not, whether there's a steak on our plate or not, we are. And in that realization, and then, you know, my realization with my compost and like bringing all the vegetables, but without the cow manure, it's not really great fertilizer. And I just basically, nature reshifted my brain to understand so many things. And then you start to go to gender ideology and abortion and all these things, and you start to realize none of them are natural in the world. And so going back to the land reshaped everything I believed. And then how I ended up in Texas, or how we ended up in Texas, is we were selling my restaurants for millions of dollars, and I was on the way to be retired and just be a farmer. And all I had to do is like meet these specific goals, and I would get 25 to 31 million. And it looks like I'm going to get the 31 million. We're crushing it. And then a bureaucrat signed a paper and said, no more indoor dining for 2.5 years. And my restaurants were just eliminated one by one through bureaucratic oversight that wasn't considerate of the individual business owner at all. And I had already bought this land in Texas thinking that I was going to open more restaurants in San Antonio and in Austin. And I had to make a decision, like I can't keep everything. And I decided that I thought that there was more freedom in Texas and more possibility in Texas than there was in California. And we sold everything and moved here. And that's how we got to Sovereignty Ranch in Texas.
Wow. What an amazing.
And that's how a vegan chef turns into a Texas cattle rancher.
That is incredible. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan, go ahead. You contribute your part to this.
Yeah. So, you know, again, it's interesting how, the way that doors open and then they evolve from that opening, because the big awakening for me when I met Graham Sate, I was in New Zealand at a conference and I saw Graham Sate talk, and he basically described the carbon cycle and regeneration. And at the time, you know, the big aha was, oh my God, we can pull the carbon out of the sky in this imbalanced way and, you know, put it into the soil, and we can produce healthy food, you know, as a climate change solution. And at the time, that was the biggest boogeyman of the in the room. But I would say beyond that, really what he was communicating was this pathway of healing that, you know, I oftentimes say that regeneration is the good news, in that we as human beings, for the most part, don't see how life can get better in the future. And when we understand the process of regeneration, and that humans and nature and working together in this harmonious way, synchronized way, we can see this process of healing. And I think that that's, beyond just very practical soil, piece of land. From a psychological perspective, when we look to the future, there's very few images of a vision of how life gets better from here forward. There's so much, I think, when we someone gave me this statistic that 90% of all the visual interpretations of the future of life for humans is dystopian and destructive. And when I saw the vision and I saw this communication, understanding of regeneration, to me, it was, oh my God, this is the most profound, beautiful vision of how we can heal. And again, I told you about my family. The idea was, okay, how is love going to awaken? How are we going to return to our hearts as humankind and take care of each other and take care of, and I didn't really see what the mechanism for that better life could look like until I understood and started to see the process of ecological regeneration, and then how that ties to human ecological healing and regeneration, which also ties to this spiritual nature of regeneration and reconnecting with our hearts, with God, with this divine nature.
And it's interesting there. It's like a little bit of a joke because I write for Epoch Times and I write in twice a week or so. And almost 100% of articles come back to the soil, and I'll be writing about AI. I'll be writing about water. I'll be writing about marriage. I'll be writing about like any kind of thing. Right. And then I'll be like, and those of you who read me often know, how is Mollie going to bring this back to that we're disconnected from nature? But honestly, like, it is the foundation of everything. And when you think about that, the microbiology in our guts, a healthy gut is 73% the same DNA as the microbiology in healthy soil. Whether you want to follow the science or you want to follow God, the science shows that we are the same and we're meant to be together, and that our health is intimately connected. And in the Bible, God takes up, in Genesis, he takes up the soil, he makes Adam, he breathes into his mouth, and his first commandment before the 10 commandments is to tend to the garden. And so whether you want to not hold Jesus in your heart, you want to not hold God in your heart, and you just want to go with the science is clear. And if you are a follower, then also the command is clear. So in both ways, all there is for us to do as the keystone species on this planet is reconnect with the soil and take our role in interacting with God's creation as perfection, and how do we contribute to it and interact with it, rather than trying to out-science it, control it, dominate it, kill it, pave it, all of that. Like, we have a profound responsibility. And it's all through the Bible, our responsibility towards the earth. But it is, and it's also all through all of life. Like, and people, the other day I was on a podcast, and it was a Christian podcast, and someone said in the comments, it was like a live one on YouTube, and they said, "Oh, you sound like you're a pagan." And I responded, "Well, do you think that the perfection in nature is the devil? Like, it's clearly God's expressing constantly, and all of the answers that we need are in nature." And that is the point of my book, is like, if you want to know if something is true or not, take it to nature and see if it's real. If it's not real out there, then it's not real in here. We've just bent our mind to believe it.
Absolutely. I mean, in God's word, it talks about, I mean, every man can just just open your eyes and look around me and look at nature, and you'll see God. I mean, guys, I hope, to the audience, I hope you're seeing this thread here. I mean, last week, Abraham John's talking about in just Genesis, he can camp out on Genesis 1 and 2, take dominion and rule, but that's a righteous rule. We rule for the benefit of those under our authority, including the animals in the dirt. But going all the way back to Jamie Winship, kingdom versus empire. there's two worldviews, this connected worldview, love God, love your neighbor as much as you love yourself, and don't let fear come in. The empire is fear-based and divisive. I mean, this thread, you're seeing it all the way through, and exactly what Mollie's talking about and Ryland's talking about here. It's the same theme through here, righteous rule, but specifically over the dirt and over nature, over the soil. It's amazing.
And we are in, and I was talking to someone this morning who's in this space, and another farmer and another entrepreneur, and we were saying, like, we need to get the urgency out there, but like, we don't want to be fear mongering. Like the green movement made everybody feel like human beings are the scourge, the plague, the problem on the planet, rather than that we were put here by God in his image, and it is our job to steward, to have dominion, to care for. And so I want everybody to step out of their door every single day like, I belong here, and how can I interact like a partner with God, rather than thinking I can out-science, outsmart. But there is an apathy that comes with us thinking that we're a scourge on the planet, that we're the problem, that we are. And that in that apathy, there's a lot of people not taking action. And I want to say, we were in DC this last weekend, and I said 140,000 farms disappeared over the last 10 years, which is a common statistic I've seen. And Meryl Ness from the Farm Freedom Alliance said, no, Mollie, since 2017, we've lost 170,000 farms. So in 8 years, we lost 170,000 farms. We are at it, and we have the lowest cattle stocking rate that we've had since 1942. I mean, we are at a tipping point. And then if you look at our fertility, men's sperm is down 50%, women's fertility is down 30%, or 30% of women are experiencing some form of infertility. We are at a tipping point that we do need to awaken. I don't want people to awaken in fear. I want them to awaken in love, and awaken in that they were made in the image of God and they are perfect. And that just by shifting the way we look at things, the way we eat, the way we interact, we can have a complete reversal of these things. But we do need that tipping point. We do need people to tip back the other way. We have to take action. And people say to me all the time, what can people do besides buy from your local farm? And I want to say this, like, no, buying from your local farm, if you're not wanting to go out and farm yourself, but trading your convenience for your resilience and the resiliency of your farming community is the most important thing you can do. We all get apathetic. We all go to the grocery store. We all just order stuff on Amazon. We all just, but if you can do the little bit extra and order a meat box from a regenerative farm that you care about, you can drive to go get your raw milk from somewhere. You can drive to the farmer's market and buy your veggies from somebody. I know that we're all so busy, and I know, but we've created all this technology to free up our time. And what are we doing with that free time? We need to support the people that are still trying to do the agrarian thing. That America depends on an agrarian society. If we lose our farmers, we lose America. And we are losing our farmers at a rapid rate. And I don't want people to hear this as scary. I want people to hear this as, I am inspired to go make that extra trip and go buy from the farm. I want to drive out to Sovereignty Ranch and have brunch there instead of the place in San Antonio, which is 5 minutes from my house. I want, and not just me, how many farms are doing farm to table dinners, and how many, all these things. Farms are desperately trying to beg the consumer to see them and interact with them. And the consumer has so much power.
Are you ready to take control of your health together? You're not alone. Dr. Ben, as well as a mission-driven team here at Veritoss, created this online wellness membership because so many are suffering. We want to help more people by sharing the truth that we believe will change lives. Veritoss Wellness Membership is more than just a wellness program. It's a movement designed to empower you with truth, practical tools, and a support community at a price that's accessible for everyone. One membership covering your entire household. Upon signing up, you gain access to life-changing educational resources, expert-led webinars, live movement classes and exercise series, community groups and wellness initiatives, interactive classes, as well as exclusive discounts on supplements and advanced lab testing. We also offer complimentary, unlimited peace consults, a space for you to go deeper, discover who you were created to be, and explore how stress contributes to disease. We believe in getting to the root cause and understanding why what we believe truly matters. Our team of wellness navigators are here to guide you every step of the way. So whether you're just starting your wellness journey or ready to go deeper, there's something here for you. So jump in today. We can't wait to walk this journey with you. Visit VeritasWellnessMember.com to get started.
Amen. Guys, I just real quick want to the Merc downstairs. I'm up in the recording studio. Downstairs, we have a store. That store is full of products from local people, eggs, chicken, pasture-raised pork, grass-fed beef. If you're in the Lubbock area, yeah, downtown Lubbock's not real convenient necessarily to all the South Lubbock growth. But exactly what Mollie's saying, we're trying to support these local folks, the 2 raw milk dairies that are in this region. You can become a PMA member, private membership association, and get some of these farm products through the store and just get connected to the farmers. It's not about just coming to the store. I mean, we're doing this to try to help the farmers in the community make this connection. We're going to have a guest on the podcast soon from Garden City, Texas, down Midland, Odessa. He flipped his cotton farm into a chicken farm, both egg and meat chicken. So we're going to have him on. Support these local guys. Two other things real quick. Ryland had mentioned the vision for the future is so negative in so many people. Guys, go back and listen to Carrie Kirkwood and Andrew Womack, both talking about imagination and how powerful that is when you envision. Your vision is the truth and positive versus not. And then Leif Hetland, orphan versus that orphan spirit versus sonship. What Mollie was just talking about, this isn't a fear-based thing. Understand who you are. You're not an orphan. You don't have to, fight for your own self. You don't have to be self-centered with stuff. When you love your neighbor as much as you love yourself and you trust God's provision and his vision, the spirit of truth will show you the way forward, and it's good. And boom, this thing shifts. Anyways, just had to throw that in this thread that y'all are hitting so many points here of our last mini guest throughout 2025. It's awesome. So continue, or Ryland, I was going to get you to share a little bit too about Kiss the Ground and anything else. And then we'll get to what y'all are doing currently for sure, and the conference. But share with that, because it was such a powerful documentary. How'd you end up there? And then how'd you end up in DC? I mean, that might be a jump to there, but just share some of that story.
It's definitely all one
windy thread.
Yeah, one windy thread for sure. So Kiss the Ground. We spoke about that moment of revelation, that there's this good news called regeneration, this vision of how we work with nature to heal our bodies and heal the land and heal creation and be a part of that process. And I was living in Los Angeles as a vegan restaurateur. I've always been buoyant, optimistic, someone who felt like the world can be better. There is a more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. And how do we awaken this presence of love? How do we awaken this experience of community and togetherness and healing? And I just, I knew, and I have love on my arm, be love tattooed on my arm, that me and my father got tattooed together as this mantra of who we're going to be, where I am, love is, and what action is that love going to take. And when I heard Graham State speak, it was the good news. And again, I just was like, wow, this conversation needs the biggest platform. That how can this become, around the world? How can this be a gospel around the world of understanding this idea of regeneration? And so I started a little nonprofit in my garage. I started gathering people over a 6-month year period. Every Monday from 7 to 9, I'd gather people, and because I was working in the restaurants, interacting with lots of people socially, and feeding lots of people, over a plant-based vegan meal, but I was still, speaking about health and where does the food come from. And I started, pulling people out of the restaurant and started, creating this think tank in my garage of, community members. And, that led to this idea of, we're in Los Angeles, and it is the belly of the beast, and it's also the cinematography. It's the media capital of the world. And so how do we tell a new story from ground zero? There's a lot of, so-called degenerative stories coming out of that place. And how do we tell a beautiful story, a story of healing, and a story of love, and a story of creation? And so, that idea became, planted deeply in me, and I started, figuring out, how can we make this happen? And the miracles are beyond. It's like it's been a process that's for sure been guided from the beyond. In that, the garage that I was living in was actually the film studio of the filmmakers, who I then enrolled in having, make the film, Josh and Rebecca Takal.
Before he lived there, he found out that the filmmakers lived at his house before he had moved in, just randomly.
So yeah, they moved out, I moved in, and then realized, and as I started gathering people, I realized that they were the filmmakers. I went back to them and said, let's make this film. Rumi, the poet, the Sufi poet, who has been a big inspiration in our family for a long time, has a poem that says, every day we wake up lonely and afraid. Don't grab down a book, pull an instrument off the wall. Let the beauty you love be all that you do. There's hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. And so yeah, this idea of kissing the ground, this idea of having reverence for the creation, the creator, for being humbled by this beauty and being in service to this creation, is this message of kiss the ground, this loving the earth, loving this creation that we come from. And that became the name of the film, the name of the nonprofit that I started with a good friend of mine. And we worked over 7 years, raising $25,000 at a time, meeting cool people like Gabe Brown and Ray Archuleta and Alan Savory, and, being these young, energetic guys from the city, vegans, calling and saying, hey, we love what you're doing. We want to platform it. We're making a film. And them being like, okay, yeah, we'll show up. And ultimately, just through the infectious enthusiasm and love for this vision coming to fruition, 7 years of creation, fundraising, community building, bringing people together. The film was released in 2020 on Netflix during the pandemic. And it really hit like a lightning strike of people feeling disconnected, lonely, not sure where their food was coming from, wanting to understand how they could be more, food secure. And then this film comes out with this message of hope and good news and healing and possibility. And it was boom, 10 million people watched the film all around the world. It's being, used as a communication tool for this idea. And, it's remarkable that it literally started in a living room with me and, my friend Finian Makepeace. And we had invited Graham Sate, Mollie mentioned his TED Talk. He actually came to LA, and that was our original goal, was how do we platform this guy's message? Again, similar to my acknowledgement to you in the beginning of this, conversation, what he was communicating was so profound and so true. I said, how do we get this message onto stages? How do we get this message elevated? And that really, became a decades-long work of, the film coming out, a second film being made, which came out. Now they're both on Amazon Prime. Kiss the Ground came off Netflix, and now they're both on Amazon Prime. And there's a third film in the queue called Groundswell, which is essentially a film about regenerative agriculture happening in different ways all over the planet, to really bring this thread of connectivity, that this is a universal message of goodness and healing that's happening all around the world. And how do we continue to support it and plug in and support and, be an example of it. So Kiss the Ground has continued to grow. I've stepped away from Kiss the Ground because during COVID, Bobby Kennedy was somebody who was courageous and willing to stand up and be truthful in a moment where the mainstream narrative I was very suspicious of and did not trust. And he was one of the few people who was willing to stand up. And I had been personally introduced to him from a mutual friend, and we had gotten to spend a little time together. And yeah, I loved his being. I loved his heart. I loved what he was up to. And then when he, through COVID and his stance on vaccinations and understanding the truth of those, and then when he put up his first campaign video to run for president, I watched it. I was actually sitting on the toilet, weeping, crying, watching this campaign video, just feeling my heart, feeling the truth and the conviction of what he was wanting to do. And I said, a psychic once told me that my job in life is to point at things and help grow movements behind them. And I'm pointing at Bobby Kennedy for president. And so I got very involved in his campaign, became a surrogate for him, and spoke at some events and was plugging the MAHA or pre-MAHA, the regenerative agriculture movement into, supporting him, and was part of his finance committee and helped, raise money and put on events for him. And then that led to actually me sitting in a sweat lodge with him and having this whisper on my heart to champion this man, to get behind him. And that led me to leaving Kiss the Ground because I couldn't be involved in politics, especially with sort of a liberal California-based organization framework funding mechanism, while Bobby Kennedy was moving to support Donald Trump. And so, that led me to, continuing to do the work of advocacy and education and, building a movement around regenerative agriculture and how can we have this continue to grow. And so that led to the creation of a new organization called American Regeneration, which is explicitly a organization working on bridging and liaisoning between the best and the brightest practitioners in regenerative agriculture and this current administration through the portal of connectivity through Bobby Kennedy, through HHS, but knowing that obviously we need to move USDA to move the needle. And obviously there's this MAHA commission and this mandate to make America healthy. And being that there's, lots of contradictions, when you look at an administration of there's lots of contradictions, there's lots of, burdens and all kinds of challenges in any one big apparatus. But I still think that there is a powerful, poignant time of transformation through this mandate of Bobby Kennedy's leadership and this vision of making America healthy. And so American Regeneration is really working on how to have the regenerative agriculture piece be impactful and transformative, and chipping away at all the ways that information and messaging and influence gets through to DC, gets through to policy, gets through to the culture. And so we're working on that through this organization, American Regeneration, that I co-founded with an amazing regenerative farmer named Rick Clark, who's out of Indiana. He's doing 7,000 acres, no-till, regen, organic. He was featured in the Common Ground film.
And he's growing corn with no inputs at all.
Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah,
just healthy soil.
Yeah, integration of livestock, crop diversity and rotation,
and microbes.
Yeah, and then also a colleague, Kelly Ryerson, who's been a big champion of the truth about glyphosate and having the public understand the implications on our health. And we really are taking the approach that it's not about screaming, demonizing chemicals, demonizing, no, it's about how do we meet farmers, producers in the culture and the reality that they're in, and how do we have them be inspired that there is, again, this other vision of a healthy life, a healthy land, a better stewardship, a vision of their children want to be involved and support what they're doing because it's actually inspiring and there's actually a viable future and a financial vision. We're leading with making farming profitable again through investing in soil health.
And I just want to say that I don't believe I would say I'm a radical centrist. I lean a little right of center, but I'm a radical centrist, and I believe in thinking for ourselves, and I believe in questioning everything. But I also don't think that human health should be a partisan issue. And I think that we have to use some logic, and we have to use some discernment when looking at these things, because the reason regenerative agriculture doesn't have billions of dollars in subsidies like wind and solar is because nobody can get rich off it. There's no friends of friends that are just going to become billionaires off of regenerative agriculture. And if there was, it would be platformed, I guarantee, but it's just not, because it can't make all of this millions of dollars that wind and solar and all this stuff. Wind and solar are not financially viable industries without government subsidies, and they are not necessarily good for the planet. And so when we are judgmental, like this side of the aisle is good for the environment and this side of the aisle is not, I want to say that I want us to look with more discernment, and I want us to ask, are we making choices for human health? Like, that is what I think the foundational question needs to be. And it is not a one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle. It is an urgency that we all come together on this thing of soil health, less chemicals, less endocrine interrupters, like really going back to humanity, eating the food as it's meant to be eaten, drinking the water as it is meant to be drank, and not like arguing over which side is better for what. Let's just come together. And I want us to remember that as long as we're fighting over microaggressions and solar panels and whether we should or should not use fossil fuels, we're not coming together and making major shifts in farming. And that's what needs to happen for the human health of everyone on the planet. And so I want to encourage everybody to put their politics aside and just come together for no more chemicals and healthy soil. Like, that has to be, and no more chemicals, like Ryland said, is not going to be overnight, but we do need to meet farmers where they're at. We need to help farmers have a soft landing. That's why I think something like Regenerative is such a good program, because you get the certification and you have 9 years to get to your goal. And every 3 years you have specific measurable results. They test your soil, but you get the certification. So the consumer gets to help the farmer make the transition. The public gets to be part of that. And that's what we have to be, is a coalition for farming to go in the direction that we need it to go. Because I doubt, and like Ryland said, government is complicated and it's a big apparatus. I doubt that government can move at the speed in which humanity needs to move. But we, as humans, can come together as a coalition and be that soft landing for the farmers and help make that transition. And we actually have all the power. There's much more of us than there is of them. And consumer demand and public outrage has much more power than we are led to believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just commenting on my wife's new blouse she was wearing this morning, how beautiful it was. And she said, yeah, organic cotton. She
Excellent.
Specifically is going to buy some our little girl had her 8-year-old birthday, and my wife bought her new sheets. And my wife said, I don't know if Poppy May is going to like these sheets or not. Super soft like her old ones, but they're organic cotton. And she did love them too. But, and I want to say for the farmers, and I know we have a lot that listen, and pretty much everybody out here in West Texas is related to a cotton farmer, it seems like, which I love cotton farmers. I've got a great friend. I work out with him Tuesday and Thursday mornings. So this morning I worked out with him. He came back to the family farm, took over for his dad who passed away a couple years ago. And this friend of mine made the decision to go organic. He just knew it was the right thing. He was going to just quit the chemical, and he did. And it's been hard. I mean, this year in particular, we got so much rain at a moment, and the grass literally was taking over a quarter of his cotton farm, and he couldn't get in there to plow because it was too wet. It's a major challenge and a major stressor on him. So I understand to a degree, just because I talk with a lot of these guys, the challenge of it. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think we also understand we're at a point. I mean, because the same farmer that I work out with, a couple of his wells went dry. Out of 12 wells, they're dry. And the others, the output is like half of what it used to be historically. I mean, we're running out of water on the aquifer up here. I mean, there's so many problems, but there's solutions. And there's a way, and like Ryland said, not to demonize, and Mollie said, not to just division. That's empire, fear-based division versus love-based connected. And there's a way to do this, and there's a creative way to do this that will produce fruit that's going to be measurable and going to be amazing. So thank you guys for but maybe speak to that a little bit, either one of you. If farmers that are listening, a little interested, like practically, like, okay, guys, you made a movie, and Mollie, we need to talk about your book too, and the conference. And maybe y'all want to just point to these resources, but like a practical, okay, you've piqued my interest. What do I actually do as a farmer? You know, what's a step? Where can I go? How do I learn? How can I talk to someone who's maybe done some of this? Like, give a little bit of practical, what can they do next?
So I have been certified organic. I've been certified ROC, and I've also been certified.
That's regenerative organic.
Regenerative organic, and I've done Regenified. So I've done not all three. There's a lot of different certifications out there. And I believe right now that Regeneify is the best tool for farmers that want to transition and want to reserve the right. If, like what he's saying, like he could have sprayed something at that point, or so you want to reserve the right, but you're lessening your chemicals every year, and they test your soil every year. You have to have more organic matter. You have to have less chemical residue. And so basically you're building to a no chemical place and a no-till place in 9 years. And so you're basically going little by little. And that's one option. Obviously, certified organic has more pull in the market, but you have to do those practices for 3 years without getting any financial benefit, because you're just still going to be selling as the conventional. And so with the transition option, with how Regenify does it and the different tiers, and then the ROC is the regenerative organic through the USDA with this extra thing on top. And that is also widely accepted, but Regenify is accepted at Whole Foods, at like a lot of these different big markets. And I think that as more of us farmers come into Regenify, and I'm like mentioning it here on this podcast so that people can say, oh, I haven't heard about that. Let me look it up. Let me see what farmers are doing this. Because I think that if we look at the numbers, and Regenify was started by Gabe Brown and Alan Williams. So these are guys that are doing it. They're profitable in it, and they have the real world experience to help you make that transition. But I think the more people that hear about it, it will be as. Let
me just add one point to that. And this is a point that Gabe Brown recently made to me when we were discussing policy ideas for, USDA. There's some programs through the NRCS that helps farmers, get conservation dollars to practice some regenerative practices. But there's oftentimes not the technical training or the context of understanding that allows or has producers be able to use those conservation dollars to practice new things to succeed. So he was saying that about 15 to 20% of producers who take a conservation program on usually fall, 75, 85% are falling out of those programs, and new people going in, falling out. Whereas, understanding ag, a major plug to Gabe Brown and Alan Williams and, the work that they're doing, they have a 85 to 95% success rate of farmers who start to practice soil health practices, understand the context, really get committed, succeed down that path, and ultimately are, becoming more profitable. That's actually why it makes sense. And so, if there's been an itch and a feeling of this way that I've been doing this is not working, again, I don't mind pointing out and platforming guys and gals who I highly admire and respect their work. But, Dr. Alan Williams, Gabe Brown, Understanding Ag, amazing work. Also, John Kemp and Advancing Eco Ag, another great resource and group of consultants and practitioners that can help you find, what is going to be the context, what is going to be the path for you to be able to succeed in turning the corner and going a different direction for your agriculture.
And one thing that people might not know is organic started in like the 70s. Gabe and Alan, just with Understanding Ag, not including Kemp and all these other that are bringing people in, they have brought more acreage into regenerative practices in the last 10 years than organic has brought into organic certification since the 70s. So it seems that there's a much more bigger market of people that are willing to do these soil health practices than there is doing the certified organic. So again, this is about meeting farmers where they're at. And then once you start doing the thing with Understanding Ag, the transition to organic, if you choose to do it, may not be that hard because you've already cut out so many chemicals. You've already built up your soil health and you're already doing all of these things. So I do think there's a lot of resources out there. And I do think if you're having that feeling, if it's being put on your heart, I suspect that it's a calling and you might want to follow that calling and follow. And, I think that when we don't know something is wrong, there is no consequences for us doing that thing. But once we realize and we hear it in our heart and our mind that it's wrong, I do think that there's consequences. I do think life gets a little bit harder if we don't listen to the whispers. My mother used to say, God whispers and then he screams. Do you need him to scream or can you hear the whispers? And I believe that. And so I think as we're starting to have that feeling on our heart, we want to listen. And I'm a big believer of radical faith and stepping out onto the skinny branches and knowing that God has our back and that if we are following him, then he will provide. And so it doesn't always look exactly how we want it to look. And we're certainly out on the skinny branches starting over at 47 years old. I have no more nest egg and I'm out on the skinny branches. So I'm not pretending to give advice on finances, but I do know that every time I've heard that on my heart and I've done the other thing, the consequences have been pretty dire. And my husband always jokes with me, do we have to do everything you think God wants us to do? And I'm like, yes. My husband would be totally happy to own a convenience store. He came up the other day, before we moved out of California, when the restaurants were going down, there's a Mexican convenience store that sells, those calling cards to call Mexico and cashes people's paychecks and sells junk and sells junk food. And he was like, it's for sale and they're making this much money. The guy's retiring. I think that this would be great. And I was literally and we're so broke. We were having 2 farms at that time. I got the California farm and this farm. It's COVID. And I mean, it looked attractive when I looked at the numbers and it was super close to the farm, less than a mile away. But honestly, I don't believe my life will be blessed if with my knowledge about food and nutrient density and farming and soil, if I took on a bodega and sold fried pork skins in seed oils and Fritos. I just don't think I could. I will not be blessed. I know that would be. And my husband's it's making this much money. We buy it. It's going to keep making this much money. People aren't going to stop eating Fritos. And I was I don't know what's going to happen, honey, but I know it would not be good for us. And so I pray to doing the right thing. And my husband prays to efficiency. And so we're a good balance in life because he's always trying to make me more efficient. And he thinks that I live in the magical world. And I do in some ways. And thank God that I have such an awesome partner that is going to take my magical ideas and make them happen as efficiently as possible.
Yeah. That's such a great reminder, Molly, because that's in my life too. When you hear that truth and this is the road to go. You're being drawn, you're being wooed, come this way. And when guys, audience, when you feel that, you hear that in your heart, and immediately fear comes. Oh no, what will people think, or where's the money going to come from? Yada, yada. That's all orphan. That's that orphan mindset. You're flipping into self-preservation, self-centeredness, self-provision, self-protection, just like an orphan. He's got to scrounge and scrape and fight and claw for himself versus no, God's going to provide. He owns it all anyways. I got to trust though. I got to trust this invisible thing, and it's going to be there out on the skinny branch. Daddy's underneath me, can catch me if I fall. He's not going to lead you to destruction. He's going to make a way, but you have to take that step. Not going to drag you. It's a voluntary submission to the truth. So be encouraged by what Molly just, and both of them. I mean, this is a great, just amazing path.
Do you have a minute for me to tell you?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So in the end of leaving California, I owned this farm already in Texas. My restaurants are having no income, or 3 are closed and 2 are losing money. And I'm in escrow for my farm in California. And I prayed to God, like we had all these violations. That's how California kind of got me out, was they came into a farm that started in 1884 and wanted all these things brought up to code. And it was not economically possible. And so I'm praying for someone that's going to buy the farm cash so I don't have to deal with all these violations. I pray for somebody that's going to keep my employees on and keep up the regenerative practices. I had brought up my soil organic matter to 20%. Like we had this massive healthy soil, this like abundance of food just pouring out of it. And I prayed for all that. I forgot to pray for somebody that wasn't a pharmaceutical heir, but so a pharmaceutical heir literally buys the farm, and now we're in escrow. So I've got this all cash deal. He's going to keep my employees. He's going to keep, at the time I thought he was even going to keep my CSA program. So all these people that were having health challenges we were doing 500 boxes a month, and I thought he was going to keep that as well at the time. So I just thought like, wow, this is perfect. Like everybody's going to win and we're going to get out of here. And then the reality is I had like $15,000 in the bank, and that's it. And I've got this farm in California and a farm in Texas, and that's not even enough to pay the mortgage for both places for the month, right? And the restaurants are not bringing any income. And I'm looking around and I've got cows to move, greenhouses to move, tractors to move, so much farm equipment, everything, a whole farm to move, shipping containers, tiny houses. And there's things I have to do to move off the property that are required to close escrow. And I'm like, can you advance me some money so I can move? And he's like, no. And so I literally get on my knees one night, and I say, God, I don't know how to ask for this, but I can't see any pathway. Like I can't, like logistically, I do not see the pathway forward, but I'm begging you to just drop a pile of money on me so I can get out of here and get to Texas, and then I'll have the equity from my home and to get started in Texas. But please, God, just drop a pile of money on my head. And I'm sorry to ask for something so specifically, but that's what I need. And I was on my knees on the side of my bed in the nighttime. All my kids, we have a big 2 king beds. We co-sleep with our children. So my 4 children, my husband are asleep, and I'm praying on the side of my bed for that on my knees. And I'm crying and I'm saying like, I'm the leader here. And like, I don't know how to get my family out of here. I don't know how to navigate this. Like, help me. And at 4 a.m, I get a text message from Kanye West responding to a text message months before where I asked him if he wanted to invest in this project in Texas. And obviously, if he had given me money to invest in Texas, I could not use that money to move. That would be for building the infrastructure here for the hospitality and retreat center that we built. And he writes, no, Mom, I'm not investing in anything that's not for me. And I wrote back, oh, I understand that. And he's like, so just send me an invoice for consulting. And I'm like, okay, for how much? And he says, 300,000. And I said, oh, okay, where do I send the invoice? And he gives me the invoice. My husband's like, who are you texting in the middle of the night? Hang up your phone, like go to sleep. And I'm like, wait, honey, be careful. give me a minute. And so I sent that invoice, and the next week I don't receive any money. And I'm like, well, that was maybe too good to be true. But I thought, let me just text the guy that I sent the invoice to and ask him, how long does it usually take to get paid through Kanye's bill pay? And he writes back, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I didn't see that got missed. Let me put it through Friday. I have some other out of time things. So I'll send you a wire on Friday. And sure enough, that Friday, $300,000 showed up in my bank account. And I've never heard from Kanye again. Like, if he's listening, I'm happy to consult. I've never spoke to him again. I sent him a contract and I sent him the invoice, and he paid me. And only by that miracle and the grace of God, and like you said, it's all God's, like God somehow through Kanye moved that money to us and made it possible for us to move all the stuff that would be way more than $300,000 if we had to buy. I mean, just my husband's one tractor is, like, $150,000. Like, you know what I mean? So like, to move all this stuff here, our animal herds, all of it, our greenhouses, 47 semi-loads got moved this direction. And and that was a miracle. Like, there was no pathway. I didn't see any pathway that I was going to be able to have that money. And somehow my prayer was answered within hours. And so I do believe this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'm meant to serve, even though right now it feels hard, and we're still I'm joyously expecting the abundance of the Lord to be flowing in our direction again soon. But I do know that this is where I'm meant to be. And there was so many miracles like that along the way, even the price of our land. And we couldn't afford this land. And it turned out it was 56 acres less than they actually thought it was. So they had to lower the price, which brought it into our price range to be able to close escrow. Like, all these things, just miracle after miracle showed up and had us be here. So here I am in the middle of Bandera and Kerrville, serving nutrient-dense, regenerative food. People get to come eat on the farm, at the restaurant, see the cows grazing, see the line of the fence where they were yesterday, where they're moving tomorrow, get to have a real experience of what regenerative agriculture is, and feel the coherency of eating food from the land, which is a coherency that we all 100 years ago had almost every meal. And now we never have it. And so I'm praying that the ripple effect of that is beyond what I know and can understand. And it's worth doing it over the liquor store, which was profiting $100,000 a month.
Which brings us to the moment of, Food is Medicine, September 25th through the 28th, which really is a gathering of hearts and minds of community people that we've been inspired by and admired, in the world of food is medicine, from, practitioners to people who have had personal healings, to people working on systems change and advocacy and education. And how do we bring this message and this reminder, this reawakening to our community that we're currently embedded in, we're nested in here in Central Hill Country, Texas, an hour from San Antonio, 2 hours from Austin. And how do we bring this immersive experience over a weekend to where we can touch, move, and inspire a new community of people to remember? And so we're really, really grateful for your hearing the call, receiving my sort of random message. I texted, I think, you directly, and then I texted to your office. And so just grateful that you got back, and thanks for jumping on to create this podcast and to spread the word. And we're really, really, really happy.
Well, it's my honor, guys. I mean, what an incredible story. It's inspiring. Just this past hour has been just amazing. It's going to touch a lot of lives, just hearing your story. But I know even more so at the conference, a 4-day event. Amazing. How do people learn more about it, buy tickets, all that kind of stuff?
You can go to eatyourhealings.com, or you can go to sovereigntyranch.com under events, and you can purchase tickets. There's a 3-day ticket, and the ticket price is going to go up in the end of August. So till the 31st of August. So I recommend people buy their tickets before the 31st of August. You have a code, which I'm sure you'll put in the notes here.
Ben 10.
Ben 10. That's easy to remember. Ben
Yes,
10. You're
Ben
gonna
10.
get 10% off if you use the code Ben 10. And there is housing on site. We have either glamping tent options. We have a few tiny houses are still available if you'd like to have a more air conditioned experience. And there's also a Best Western in town in Bandera, and we'll have a shuttle every day moving people back and forth if you're more in the would like to have a hotel experience. We have this beautiful conference room attached to our brewery that's not yet finished, but our brewery, the conference room is finished. Our brewery is not finished. And so we'll be having in the conference room a couple talks in the morning. Then the middle of the day is going to be more doing things with your hands. We're going to have butchering, tincture making, and sourdough bread and fermented food workshops. And so people can, and it's going to be not just like put the herbs in the alcohol, but we're going to go on a walk. We're going to look at the different herbs. We're going to let people choose herbs, and then they're going to be able to take their tincture home and strain it out after the appropriate time. So people will be able to make custom tinctures to what their, whatever. I might not have every herb that they might for whatever ailments, but people can share like, hey, I'm struggling with this or this, and we'll be able to make tinctures based on, we're going to do a plant walk and people are going to harvest for their tincture, and then we're going to make tinctures. And also I'm going to give everybody Spilanthes tincture and our sinus blaster tincture. So we're going to have things like that. We're going to have a really great butcher that has from Montana is going to do a butchering class so people can just having that experience. Some people haven't ever harvested an animal and haven't ever had that experience. And it is hard. And anybody who says it's not hard has disconnected from their heart in some way. But I do think that we need to be intimately connected in the sacrifice that is given of the animals that we consume. And so I think that's important. And I think that fermented foods are so important. So we're going to have these workshops and more hands-on stuff. We're going to have a drink your healings happy hour and have a different, like a cacao beverage and a different beverage every day that has medicinal qualities to it before dinner. And the restaurant will be open. And so all the meals you'll be able to purchase from the restaurant, which all the meat will be from the farm, all the protein from the farm, eggs from the farm, and some vegetables and fruit from the farm. And then some will be organic from Azure Standard. But we won't be serving you anything that's not creating health and wellness. And often I go to these conferences and to speak, and I'm speaking and everybody's so inspired. And then it's lunchtime and it's like this Cisco catered lunch by the hotel. And I think that it is really important to have the experience of what we're talking about while we're talking about it and not have that disconnect. And so here will be a fully immersive experience. And we have this beautiful pond that we use for irrigation, but we have very high mineral content in our water. And so this magnesium pond has like 2,000 parts per million magnesium. And some people find it very, very healing to get in that water and have that high alkalinity and that high magnesium content. People have spoke about it healing pain, healing skin conditions, drying out skin conditions that they've been suffering from. So all of that is going to be, there's going to be movement every single morning and tea ceremony. So you can choose if you want to do movement or you want to do a tea ceremony. So it's going to be part conference, part retreat, part homesteading vibes. And we just really want to be in community with other people that are committed to these same ideas, because really it's in the community and in the conversations more than listening to Ben or me talk from stage or Ryland or Will Harris or all these people, but finding the people in the world, in the community that want to make a change. We don't know what those sparks of that kind of connection is, but I assert that there's businesses and friendships and projects that will come out of this weekend that could be amazing. So if you're trying to get something off the ground and you want to network, I also think this is a great place to meet people that are committed to the remembering that food is medicine and that we are sovereign beings that can be in charge of our own health. We don't need to look to authority to give us health. Like we were made perfectly in God's image. And all we have to do is remember that and eat in accordance with that. And we have so much power to heal ourselves.
Amen. Guys, that's amazing. That's probably the most amazing conference I've ever heard of. It's not even happening. I can already tell you. Guys, it's going to sell out. Y'all better get your tickets quick. It's September 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. Get your tickets at eatyourhealings.com or sovereigntyranch.com. You're an hour from San Antonio. So guys, y'all can fly in, get a rental, go out. It's going to be amazing. Amazing.
We also have shuttles. We have shuttles from the airport that we
awesome.
can pick you up, so you don't have to rent a car, avoid a car. And if you don't, and we'll do shuttle people back and forth to the hotel as well.
Cool.
And one last thing, everyone that buys the whole weekend pass is getting a free copy of my book, Debunked by Nature, which comes out that weekend. So it'll be available on Amazon or on Acres USA magazine, Acres USA publisher's website as well, or debunkedbynature.com. But if you are coming to the conference, you will get a signed copy for free as part of your 3-day ticket. And we're gonna have a little celebration on Saturday night. I'm gonna read from the book, and we're going to celebrate the release of my book on Saturday night and make a few videos of people what they liked about it or what they're excited about it. So we want to invite you to be part of that celebration and get a copy of the book. And even if you're getting a free copy, you can still get one for a stocking stuffer for somebody else if you want to.
One more thing is just that it's very family friendly. Mollie has 4 kids who live on the farm. I have 2 kids who live on the farm. And, as far as, that back to that vision, how do we visualize that life that we are wanting when we come to an environment where there is aspects of that life experience being lived, embodied, then there is a spark of possibility. We can see ourselves in that real life being lived. And by no means do we have anything figured out or perfect, but we're all in on taking that step in faith and in conviction and commitment to living connected to our families, to our communities, to the earth, and being good stewards of the land. And in the same way that the coherence of this environment is very transformative versus just like, wow, that was a compelling slide and slideshow. The immersiveness of this, I think, is probably the most transformative and inspiring and awakening aspect of how this conference is unique. And so I hope you come get enlivened.
Yeah. And so the kids' ticket is only $50 because we want it to be easy for the whole weekend. And we have a kids' tent with the principal. The principal of the school in town is actually going to lead the kids' tent with her husband. And they're going to have all different kinds of programming for the kids. They're going to make butter out of cream. There's going to be a bounce house, and there's going to be other stuff like that, like just fun stuff for the kids. But they're going to collect eggs. They're going to go to milk the cows in the morning and experience getting hot chocolate powder, organic, fair trade, and then milk the cow right into it and have that experience of drinking the raw milk right out of the cow. There's going to be a fossil hunt where they're going to walk over and they're going to hunt. And we live in a place that must have been underwater at some other point in time because it's all fossils. So everybody will go home with fossils. We actually have to limit. You can only take 5 fossils because people will just fill a backpack. There's so many. There's no kid will be left without fossils. So we will have all of that as far as fun things to do. There's going to be arts and crafts projects and stuff like that for the kids as well. So we'll have a kids tent. And so you'll be able to drop your kids off with like a wristband, and only you'll be able to pick them back up, and they'll have a lanyard with your phone number on it. But there is an environment where the kids are going to be able to be free and play.
Run free on the farm, 200 acres. So it's very protected and safe.
They have to be potty trained to drop off. You can still go and participate in all those things. But if they're in diapers still, then you have to stay with them. If they're out of diapers, you'll be able to drop them off and go to talks and stuff like that. So it is really set up for families to be together here. This is not where I have to find babysitting. In fact, I'm sure you couldn't find babysitting for $50 for the weekend. So I think that you're better off to bring your children with you and have them experience this as well. And I'm huge on having family all together. And I just think that there's this whole move towards like the trad wife and the husband, and like wife stays at home. And I just wrote an article for Epoch about this. Is like, what about getting back to an industry that's in the home, or a business that where the husband and the wife are working together and the kids are underfoot and they are learning with their parents and they are getting inspired from their parents. And that's what me and Ryland grew up in, a home-based business that was in the home, and we got to see them creating something. And I don't think that that's actually traditional. It was a short period in American history where the man left the woman for 10 hours a day at home and left. And before that, there was always an industry that the family was involved in, whether it was farming or baking or shoemaking or clothing making. And I think we want to get back to that, where the kids get to experience entrepreneurialism and risk taking and money and all of that in the family together, and not just the woman has to stay at home by herself with the children. And so I really want to move to that kind of society, and I'm inspired by that. And so we want to have that be part of the conference. How do we integrate our children rather than separate from them?
Wow. Drop the mic. Guys, that's as kingdom as it gets. When you go back to Jamie Winship, Kingdom versus Empire, this is the perfect real life, real world example of someone living their life that way. Connected, loving God, love their neighbors themselves. They're automatically, their true identities, it's just flowing out of them. Stewarding the land like this and connecting people and sharing it in community. It's just amazing. So inspiring, guys. Thank you. We're going to have y'all back maybe after the book comes out. Debunked by Nature. I love that title all by itself. Guys, that book's going to be worth it. I guarantee. We'll get Mollie back on the show, and Ryland too. Thank y'all so much for what you're doing, for the conference, for being here today. Guys, sovereigntyranch.com, eatyourhealings.com. Get your tickets. They're going to sell out guaranteed. Ben 10, the number 10?
Yeah, for 10% off. Ben 10. Yep. You get 10% off if you use Ben 10.
Yep. Okay, guys. So y'all share this on your social media. It'll be on all the platforms and on our website. And we'll see y'all in Bandera. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Thank you so much. All right.
Take care.